you'll notice that I dropped pictures. These are pictures that we worked on in series last week, and we did K6 collaboration. And all they are just screenshots of the texts that are going to be read throughout the unit. So you'll notice, for example, we have Langston Hughes over here, and Walt Whitman, and Esperanza, and all of the different characters. So we don't have time for it today, but you can imagine what I was describing, where I put those, the students take their Post-its and they go around and they just notice these pictures. What I need you to know that's so vital to this type of instruction is the call of the Common Core Standards and of the California Framework, and that is very simple in a sense, and it is that we are making meaning makers. We are making meaning makers. So if we touch back upon that idea of why are we calling attention to these types of words, it's because those words serve us in making meaning of the big picture. And so I start units with meaning, and I'm going to share a strategy of how I do that. Now, let me collect normally I have, you'll see if you see me in action, I have like a little tool belt where I have all my colors and whatnot, and I didn't create that, but I'll do my best. Here we are, I'm gonna tell you a story, all right? And it begins with this unit's essential question. The question we're going to be asking ourselves this unit is this. We are in Unit 4. Since you're teachers, I want to remind you, this is a gradual release program. And Unit 4 is around the time that you'll see a kind of a jolt in release. So you're going to see the rigor is substantially greater right now in guided practice and independent practice than it was in Unit 1. And it will increase. You're going to continue to release responsibility. If you've been skipping mini lessons, bless your hearts, and JZ, remember, it's okay. But had you not, you would have seen more of a gradual release happening across the units. Unit 4, there's a leap, and you're really looking for transfer out in Unit 7. 8, 9, and 10 are standalone inquiry units where there's real release. So you don't want to start out there. All right, here's my story. Unit 4. The question we're going to be asking ourselves, and I'm going to need you to tell your partner in a moment, the question we're going to be asking ourselves is how can other perspectives, can you all say perspective?
Perspectives.
Right, perspectives help us as readers evaluate, say the word evaluate.
Evaluate.
Great. How can other people's perspectives help us evaluate the world? That's a big question. And as readers of literature, when we're talking about this kind of question, we're talking about point of view, but I want you to turn to the people next to you or partner. What is the essential question? What are we asking ourselves during this unit? It's right here.
How can others perceive us and evaluate the world?
All right. I want everybody to hold up the letter V. That's what I like to signal view. And I also like to go like this with my eyes. It's how we see things. Our perspective or our point of view is how we see things. So I'm going to be showing you that throughout this unit. And that has to do with point of view. Can you all say point of view?
Point of view.
Great. Point of view. Point of view is how I, Miss Brittany, how I see the world. That is my perspective. It is my point of view. And it has to do with the way that I see things. What is your point of view? Can you tell your partner, what is my point of view?
How I see
All right, now, the thing about having a point of view is that everybody's point of view is different. We all come into this world with different experiences, and therefore we have different things like perspectives, and sometimes we can even have a bias. In this unit, it's calling us to evaluate. Say evaluate.
Evaluate.
Evaluate. We're going to be talking about this word evaluate, And another word for evaluate, or a synonym for evaluate, is this idea that we can judge. So we're going to be judging the world. As readers, the way that we can best judge the world is by reading and analyzing. So we're going to be looking at reading and analyzing the perspectives of other characters so that we can form a judgment or evaluate our world. And so I want to touch back on something we've already learned. And I want to tell you a story about our country. And we talked about this in Unit 1, so we're going to be revisiting some of the ideas that we opened up in Unit 1. So I'm going to be drawing here. I want you to notice what I'm drawing here. If you notice it, you can start to whisper what you think you see. This is a picture of our forefathers. It's one of our forefathers. And our forefathers had what I would call a dream. And so what I'm drawing here, this is my best drawing of a dandelion. It's a wish. It's a wish or a dream. And you're going to see that it grew into something. It came from, like many of our wishes, it came from their hearts, and they had a hope for justice. They had a hope for justice. That was one of the initial dreams of our country. And it was a dream for equality. Tell your partner what our forefathers' dream was. What was it a dream for? Tell your partner. So when I think back to Unit 1, I remember reading about the Constitution and this promise of equality. And that is something that we call, and notice what I'm drawing here.
There's Florida, that's where Disney World is.
Tell your partner what you think this is. Give yourself a pat on the back if that looks like the United States to you. And I want to tell you that this idea that our forefathers had a wish and a dream built into something that we continue to call the American dream. Say that, please.
The American dream.
The American dream. And in this unit, we're going to read. We're going to read, because remember, we're going to be reading and we're going to be analyzing. We're going to be reading a variety of texts. And we're going to be reading about characters' relationship to, these are characters. We're going to be reading about these characters' relationship to the American dream. And in the American dream, sometimes we find ourselves looking at this symbol. If she looks familiar to you, go ahead and tell me who you think she is. She's supposed to be blind. If you said that is Lady Justice, give yourself a pat on the back. This is Lady Justice. Can everybody say Lady Justice?
Lady Justice.
That's right. Lady Justice is meant to be blind because Lady Justice is not supposed to see things like race and other things that have resulted in discrimination over time. But as we read during this unit, what we're going to do is we are going to be the judge. We're going to try and open our eyes to the perspectives. Can everybody say perspective?
Perspective.
Each of the characters we read about has his or her own perspective. And I want you to notice that I'm using a lighter color green because I have my own point of view and I'm going to be comparing it to characters' perspectives because I'm going to try as a reader to look through someone else's eyes so that I can evaluate what the world means for him or her. So we're going to be reading and analyzing what the world looks like through the characters' eyes so that we can be better judges of Do we live in a just world? Does everyone have access to the American dream? So we're going to be looking at our characters to see, did we keep the promise of the American dream? That's how I use those types of things, and that's how I would introduce a unit. It's at that point that I would ask the students to take the pictures in front of them and try to evaluate where on a story like this might the picture be most appropriately placed. And then throughout the course of a unit, we would revisit whether or not this character belongs where we initially placed him or her. This is also the culminating idea around why every single aspect of literacy needs to be taught together, because everything that we're learning in terms of skills should be supporting us in being able to think critically about the kinds of concepts that are going to serve us way beyond the individual text that we're reading today. And so that is how I both open a unit, connect everything, see.